The rain came down in sheets, turning the narrow mountain road into a river of mud and broken asphalt. Sarah Holloway gripped the steering wheel tighter, her knuckles white against the cracked leather. The windshield wipers beat a frantic rhythm, but they couldn't keep up with the storm. She shouldn't have taken this route. She knew better. But the main highway meant passing through Black Pine, and Black Pine meant the possibility of him. 4 years. 4 years since she'd fled that town with nothing but a duffel bag and a secret growing inside her. 4 years since Cade Thornwood had looked her in the eyes and told her she meant nothing. That their night together had been a mistake. That she was human, and humans didn't belong in his world. He'd been so cold, so final. He never knew about the baby. "Mama, I'm scared." The small voice from the back seat pulled Sarah from her spiraling thoughts. She glanced in the rearview mirror at her son, strapped into his booster seat, his too serious face framed by dark, unruly hair. "It's okay, sweetheart. Just a little rain. We'll be through it soon." But even as she said it, the car hit a pothole hard enough to jar her teeth. The steering wheel jerked violently to the left, and suddenly they were hydroplaning, spinning across the slick road like a leaf caught in a current. Sarah's scream tore through the cabin as the world tilted. Trees rushed toward them. She yanked the wheel, pumped the brakes. Nothing worked. The car slammed into the embankment with a sickening crunch of metal and glass. Then, silence. Just the drum of rain on the roof and her son's soft whimpering. "Mama, I'm here, baby. I'm here." Her voice shook. Her hands shook. Everything shook. She twisted in her seat, ignoring the sharp pain in her ribs. Eli was crying now, but he was moving. Alert. That was good. That was everything. "We're okay," she whispered, though she wasn't sure if it was true. The front of the car was crumpled against an ancient oak. Steam, rising from the hood. Her phone? She needed her phone. She fumbled for it, found it on the floor. Shattered screen reflecting her pale face back at her in fragmented pieces. No service. Of course. They were miles from anywhere. The storm showed no signs of stopping. And it would be dark soon. "We need to get out," she said, forcing calm into her voice. "Can you unbuckle for me?" Eli nodded, his small fingers working the clasp. He was always so brave, so much braver than she deserved. When they both stood outside in the downpour, Sarah assessed their situation. The car wasn't going anywhere. The road was empty, had been empty for the last 30 miles. Her clothes were already soaked through, and Eli was shivering despite his jacket. There. She pointed through the trees where she thought she'd seen a break in the forest, maybe a trail. "We'll find shelter. Come on." She took his hand, and they pushed into the woods. The cabin appeared like something out of a fever dream. The moment they were stumbling through underbrush, Eli's teeth chattering, Sarah's vision blurring with exhaustion and cold. The next, there it was, a massive structure of dark wood and stone, windows glowing with warm light. Too convenient, too perfect. But Sarah was too desperate to care. She dragged Eli up the steps and pounded on the door. Once, twice. Her fist was raised for a third attempt when it swung open. The man who stood there stole the breath from her lungs. Tall, broad-shouldered, dark hair falling across a face that could have been carved from granite, all sharp angles and brutal beauty. But it was his eyes that made her freeze. Amber, pure molten amber, catching the light like a wolf's eyes in the dark. "No. It can't be. Please," she managed, her voice barely a whisper. "My son, we need help. Our car." The man's gaze dropped to Eli, and something shifted in his expression, something she couldn't name. His nostrils flared slightly, and his entire body went rigid. "Get inside," he said, his voice rough, deep. It vibrated through her chest in a way that made her heart stutter. "Both of you." He stepped aside, and Sarah didn't hesitate. She pulled Eli into the warmth, into the shelter, into whatever danger this stranger might pose, because hypothermia was a guarantee, and this man was only a possibility. The interior was sparse but clean. A stone fireplace dominated one wall, flames crackling with steady heat. Thick rugs covered hardwood floors. The furniture was handmade, heavy, meant to last. "Bathrooms down the hall," the man said, not looking at either of them. "Get the boy out of those wet clothes. There are towels in the cabinet." "Thank you," Sarah breathed. "Thank you so much. I'm Sarah, and this is... I don't need names." His voice was sharp, final. "Just get him dry." She bristled at his tone but nodded. Eli needed warmth more than she needed to defend her pride. In the bathroom, she stripped Eli down and wrapped him in the biggest, softest towel she'd ever felt. His shivering was already subsiding, color returning to his cheeks. "Is that man gonna hurt us?" Eli whispered. "No, baby. He's helping us. He has scary eyes." Sarah's hands stilled. "What do you mean?" "Like mine," Eli said simply, "but grown up." Ice flooded Sarah's veins. She looked at her son. At the eyes she saw every day but had somehow stopped seeing. Eyes that were too bright, too knowing. Eyes that shifted in certain lights from brown to something closer to gold. Eyes exactly like Cade Thornwood's, and exactly like the strangers in the other room. No. Mama?" Eli's voice was small, worried. Sarah forced a smile. "It's nothing, sweetheart. Let's get you warmed up." But her hands were shaking again as she dried his hair, because she knew deep in her bones, in that primal place where instinct lived, that nothing about this was coincidence. The storm, the crash, this cabin, this man. Something had led her here. Something she didn't understand. And when she finally emerged from the bathroom with Eli wrapped in a towel, the stranger was standing by the fire, his back to them, shoulders tight with tension. He didn't turn around when he spoke. "How old is he?" The question hung in the air like smoke. Sarah's throat closed. 3, almost 4. The man's hands clenched into fists at his sides. "And his father?" "Gone," she whispered. "He doesn't know about Eli." Finally, the stranger turned, and the look in those amber eyes, raw, wild, shattered, made Sarah's world tilt all over again. "You need to leave," he said hoarsely. "As soon as the storm breaks, take your son and go. And don't ever come back to these mountains. I don't understand. You don't need to understand. You just need to leave." But even as he said it, his gaze kept drifting to Eli, to those eyes. Those impossible, unmistakable eyes. And Sarah knew whatever she'd been running from 4 years ago had just found her. The storm didn't break. If anything, it grew worse. Wind howled through the trees like a living thing, rattling the windows and making the cabin's heavy beams groan. Sarah sat on the edge of the leather couch, Eli curled against her side beneath a thick wool blanket, and watched the stranger prowl the room like a caged animal. He hadn't spoken in 20 minutes, just paced, back and forth. His jaw clenched so tight she could see the muscle jumping beneath his skin. "We'll leave as soon as it's safe," Sarah said quietly. "I promise. We won't be a burden. You shouldn't be here at all." His voice was rough, strained. He stopped by the window, staring out into the darkness. "This isn't a place for humans." "What's that supposed to mean?" He didn't answer, just kept staring into the storm as if he could will it away through sheer force of presence. Sarah's arms tightened around Eli. The boy had finally stopped shivering, his breathing evening out into something close to sleep. She should be grateful, focused on nothing but getting through the night and finding help in the morning. But she couldn't stop looking at the stranger. Couldn't stop noticing the way he moved, too fluid, too predatory. The way his eyes tracked every sound, every shift in the air. The way he kept his distance from them, as if proximity itself was dangerous. "What's your name?" she asked. "Doesn't matter. You're letting us stay in your home. I think it matters." His shoulders tensed. For a long moment, she thought he wouldn't answer. Then, Darius, she repeated softly. The name felt old. Powerful. "Thank you for helping us, Darius." He turned then, and the look he gave her was almost painful in its intensity. "You shouldn't thank me. You should be afraid." Should I be? Yes. But Sarah had been afraid for 4 years. Afraid of being found. Afraid of Eli's questions about his father. Afraid of the way her son sometimes seemed too strong, too fast, too other for a normal child. Afraid of what it meant that his eyes changed color when he was angry or excited. She'd built her entire life around fear, and she was tired. "I'm not afraid of you," she said. Something flickered across Darius's face. Surprise, maybe, or frustration. He ran a hand through his dark hair, the gesture achingly familiar, though she couldn't place why. "The boy," he said finally. "His scent." He cut himself off, shook his head sharply. "Never mind. His scent." Sarah's pulse quickened. "What are you talking about?" "Nothing. Forget I said anything." But she couldn't, because she'd heard that kind of language before. 4 years ago, in Black Pine, when she'd accidentally stumbled into a conversation she wasn't supposed to hear. When she'd learned that the man she'd fallen for wasn't entirely human. When she'd realized that the supernatural wasn't just stories and superstition. "You're one of them," she whispered. "Aren't you?" Darius went absolutely still. When he looked at her, his eyes were blazing, literally blazing, that amber brightening to something almost luminous. "What do you know about them?" "Everything. Nothing. Enough to run, not enough to understand. I know that werewolves are real," Sarah said, her voice steady despite the hammering of her heart. "I know that they live in packs, that they can shift between human and wolf, that they have abilities. And yet you came to my door. I didn't know. I was desperate." Darius stalked closer, and Sarah forced herself not to flinch. He stopped just a few feet away, near enough that she could see the gold flecks in his eyes, the way his pupils had contracted to narrow slits. "You should have kept driving," he said softly. "Dangerously. Should have risked the storm. Because being here with me is far more dangerous than anything that weather could do to you. Are you threatening us?" "I'm warning you." Eli stirred against her side, mumbling something in his sleep. Darius's gaze snapped to the boy immediately, and Sarah saw it again, that strange, conflicted expression, almost like pain. "He's not just human," Darius said. It wasn't a question. Sarah's blood ran cold. "I don't know what you mean." "Yes, you do." He crouched down, bringing himself to eye level with the sleeping child. "I can smell it on him. Wolf blood, diluted. But there, he's a halfling." The word struck her like a physical blow. Halfling. She'd never heard it before, but she understood it instantly. Half human, half other. "His father," Sarah whispered. "He was Shifter." Darius's voice was tight. "Has to be. The boy carries the markers. Not strong enough to shift, probably, but enough to be noticed. Enough to be..." He trailed off, his jaw working. "Enough to be what?" "In danger." He stood abruptly, turning away. "Halflings are rare, valuable to some packs, dangerous to others. If word got out that an unclaimed half-breed was wandering these territories, unclaimed?" Anger flared hot in Sarah's chest. "He's not property. He's a child. My child. That's not how pack law works." "Then pack law is barbaric." Darius barked out a harsh laugh. "You have no idea." Sarah tightened her hold on Eli, her mind racing. She'd thought distance would be enough. Thought that staying away from Black Pine, from Cade's territory, would keep them safe. But if what Darius was saying was true, if Eli's very existence put him at risk, what do I do? The question came out smaller than she intended. More vulnerable. Darius was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke again, his voice was gentler, almost kind. "You do exactly what you've been doing. You keep him hidden. Keep moving. Never stay in one place too long. And you never come back to wolf territory." "Is that what this is? Wolf territory?" "The entire mountain range. 3 different packs claim these lands. Any one of them would kill to possess a halfling with his kind of lineage." "His kind of..." Sarah's breath caught. "How can you possibly know about his breeze? Lineage? You just met him." Darius looked at her then. Really looked at her. And she saw the truth in his eyes before he spoke it. "Because I can smell his father's bloodline. It's unmistakable, ancient, powerful." He paused, something like regret crossing his features. "Alpha blood. The boy's father is an alpha." The room spun. Sarah's vision blurred at the edges. Cade. Cade was an alpha. She'd known he was important in his pack, but she'd never understood the weight of that title, never understood what it meant for Eli. "Does that change things?" she managed. "It changes everything." Darius moved to the fireplace, bracing his hands against the mantel. The flames cast his shadow long and dark across the floor. An alpha's halfling son is either a threat to be eliminated or an asset to be controlled. There's no middle ground. Then what am I supposed to do? How do I keep him safe? "You don't." The words were brutal, final. "Not alone. Not from this." Tears burned behind Sarah's eyes, but she refused to let them fall. She'd cried enough 4 years ago, cried when Cade rejected her, cried when she realized she was pregnant, cried when she understood that her son would never know his father. She was done crying. "Then I'll figure it out," she said fiercely. "I've kept him safe this long. I won't stop now." Darius turned to face her, and something in his expression had shifted. Softened, almost. "You're stronger than you look." "I have to be." Outside, thunder cracked so loud the windows rattled. Eli jerked awake with a small cry, his eyes flying open, and for just a second, just a heartbeat, they glowed amber in the firelight. Darius sucked in a sharp breath. Sarah held her son closer, and the storm raged on. Eli refused to go back to sleep. He sat tucked against Sarah's side, those two bright eyes fixed on Darius with an intensity that made her uncomfortable. Children weren't supposed to look at strangers that way with recognition. Almost like something deep inside them was responding to something they couldn't name. "Why do you smell like the forest?" Eli asked suddenly. Darius stiffened. "What? You smell like trees and rain and—" Eli's nose wrinkled as he searched for the word. "Wild things." Sarah's heart stopped. "Eli, that's not polite." "It's fine." Darius's voice was carefully neutral, but she could see the tension in every line of his body. "Your son has a good nose." "Too good," Sarah muttered. "Not for what he is." Darius moved to the kitchen area, really just a corner of the main room with a stove and rough-hewn cabinets. He pulled down mugs, filled a kettle with water. Normal, human actions that somehow looked wrong on him. Too controlled, too precise. "I can hear things too," Eli continued, oblivious to the undercurrent of tension. "Mama says I have good ears. Sometimes I hear people talking in other rooms, or animals outside at night." "Eli." Sarah's voice was sharp with warning, but Darius just nodded, slowly. "That's a useful skill. Do you hear things too?" "Sometimes." "Are you like me?" The question hung in the air like smoke. Sarah opened her mouth to deflect, to change the subject, but Darius spoke first. "In some ways, yes." Sarah's breath caught. She should stop this conversation, should redirect Eli's curiosity before it led them somewhere dangerous. But part of her, the part that had spent 4 years watching her son struggle to understand why he was different, wanted to hear what Darius would say. "The kids at my old school said I was weird," Eli said softly, "because I could smell when they were lying, and because my eyes do the thing." "What thing?" Darius asked, though his tone suggested he already knew. "They change. When I get mad or scared. Mama says it's just the light, but—" Eli looked down at his hands. "I know it's not." Darius set the kettle on the stove, his movements slow and deliberate. When he turned back, his expression was gentler than Sarah had seen. "There's nothing wrong with being different," he said. "Sometimes the things that make us strange are the things that make us strong." "Really?" "Really." Eli seemed to consider this. Then, "Are you strong?" A ghost of a smile crossed Darius's face. "Strong enough. Stronger than my daddy?" The temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. Sarah felt Darius's gaze shift to her, heavy and questioning, but she couldn't meet his eyes. "I don't know your daddy," Darius said carefully. "Me neither." Eli's voice was matter-of-fact, but Sarah heard the hurt beneath it. "Mama says he had to go away, that he didn't know about me." "Eli, that's enough. Did he have eyes like mine?" Eli pressed, looking up at Darius. "My daddy? Was he different too?" Darius was silent for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was rough. "I imagine he was." The kettle began to whistle. Darius turned away, and Sarah finally allowed herself to breathe. She'd tried so hard to protect Eli from the truth, from the knowledge that his father had rejected them before he was even born, from the reality of what he was and what it meant. But sitting here in this cabin, with this stranger who understood things she couldn't explain, she felt that protection crumbling. "Eli, why don't you see if there are any books on that shelf?" Sarah suggested, pointing to a small bookcase in the corner. "Something with pictures, maybe." Eli hesitated, then nodded and slipped off the couch. As soon as he was out of earshot, Sarah stood and moved closer to Darius. "You can't tell him these things," she whispered urgently. "He's too young to understand." "He already understands." Darius poured hot water over tea leaves, the steam rising between them. "He just doesn't have the words for it yet." "That's not your decision to make." "No, it's yours." He handed her a mug, his fingers brushing hers for just a second. The contact sent a jolt through her electric, immediate, but avoiding the truth won't protect him. It'll just make him more vulnerable when reality catches up. "Reality?" Sarah's laugh was bitter. "I've been running from reality for 4 years. It's kept us alive. Has it? Or has it just kept you isolated? Darius's amber eyes searched hers. The boy needs to know what he is, needs to understand his nature before it overtakes him. He's 3 years old, and already showing signs. The enhanced senses, the eye color shifts. How long before something triggers a partial shift? How long before he hurts someone without meaning to? Fear lanced through Sarah's chest. That won't happen. You can't know that. Not without proper guidance. Darius set down his own mug, his expression serious. Halflings are unstable. The wolf blood fights with the human side. Without training, without understanding. He's not a wolf, Sierra said fiercely. He's a little boy who likes dinosaurs and won't eat vegetables and cries at sad movies. He's human. He's both. And denying half of what he is won't make it disappear. Sarah wanted to argue. Wanted to insist that Darius was wrong, that she could keep Eli safe through sheer force of will and maternal love. But she'd seen the signs too. The way Eli could run faster than other children. The way he'd bent a metal spoon once when he was angry. The way he sometimes woke from nightmares talking about running through trees on 4 legs. I don't know how to help him, she admitted, her voice breaking. I don't know anything about this world, about what he needs. Then learn. How? It's not like there's a handbook for raising half-werewolf children. No. But there are people who could teach you. Packs that accept halflings. Absolutely not. Sarah's response was immediate and visceral. I won't hand him over to a pack. Won't let them claim him or control him or... That's not what I'm suggesting. Darius's voice was surprisingly gentle. But completely isolating him from his heritage isn't sustainable. Eventually, he'll need answers. Need community. Need to understand what he is and what he can become. I can't go back, Sarah whispered. Can't risk running into his father. Darius's expression shifted, something sharp and knowing crossing his features. The father doesn't know? No, and he can never find out. She met his gaze directly. He made it very clear I wasn't wanted, that I didn't belong in his world. I won't give him the chance to say the same thing to Eli. And if Eli wants to know him? Wants to find him someday? The question hit like a physical blow. Sierra had spent 4 years not thinking about that possibility, not imagining the day when Eli would ask real questions. Questions she couldn't deflect with vague reassurances about someday and when you're older. I'll deal with that when it happens, she said finally. Will you? Darius stepped closer, his presence overwhelming in the small space. Or will you keep running, keep hiding, keep pretending that ignoring half of your son's identity will somehow make everything simpler? You don't understand. I understand perfectly. His voice dropped, rough and pained. I understand what it's like to be caught between 2 worlds. To feel like you don't fully belong to either. To wonder if you're broken somehow because you can't be one thing or the other. Sarah stared at him. You're a halfling? No. But I've known enough of them to see the damage that comes from denial. He turned away, jaw tight. The boy deserves better than a life built on secrets and fear. I'm protecting him. You're protecting yourself. And I understand why. But eventually, Sarah, you're going to have to choose. Keep running from his heritage, or help him embrace it. Before she could respond, Eli's voice rang out from across the room. Look, Mama, this book has wolves. Sarah turned to see her son holding up a leather-bound volume, his face bright with excitement. On the cover, embossed in gold, was the image of a massive wolf, mid-howl. Darius's expression was unreadable. Perfect timing, he murmured. And Sarah realized that maybe, just maybe, the storm that had brought them here wasn't the most dangerous thing they'd face tonight. The book was older than it looked. Sarah could tell from the way the leather binding cracked slightly when Eli opened it, the yellowed pages releasing the scent of age and smoke. She moved closer as her son settled cross-legged on the rug, the firelight dancing across illustrations of wolves rendered in intricate detail. Where did you get this? She asked Darius quietly. It belonged to my grandfather. His voice was distant, carefully controlled. He collected stories, legends, some true, some not. And you keep it here? In this cabin in the middle of nowhere? This cabin isn't nowhere. It's exactly where it needs to be. He paused. On the border between territories. Neutral ground. Sarah absorbed that information. You're not part of a pack. Not anymore. The weight behind those 2 words was staggering. She wanted to ask more, wanted to understand what would make a werewolf leave the safety of pack bonds. But Eli's excited voice interrupted. This one's called The Silver Moon Prophecy, he read haltingly, his finger tracing beneath the words. Long ago, when the world was young, the moon goddess looked down upon the wolves and saw they were lonely. Darius went very still. Maybe that's enough reading for tonight, Sierra said quickly, sensing dangerous territory. But I want to hear the story, Eli protested. Your mother's right. That one's not for children. Darius moved toward them, but Eli clutched the book tighter. Why not? It's just a story about wolves and the moon, and his eyes widened as he scanned ahead. Oh, it talks about special wolves. Alphas who can find their one true mate because the moon marks them with... Eli, close the book. Sarah's voice was sharp, but the damage was done. Darius crouched beside Eli, gently taking the volume from his hands despite the boy's reluctant expression. Some stories carry power, Darius said softly, especially the true ones. And this, he tapped the page, this is truer than most people know. So it's real? The moon goddess and true mates and everything? In a way. Sierra's heart hammered. She remembered fragments of conversations from Blackpine, whispered words about bonds and destiny and mates. She'd thought it was metaphorical, romantic nonsense, but the way Darius held that book with reverence and something close to grief told her it was anything but nonsense. Tell me the story, Eli pleaded. Please? Eli, it's all right. Darius settled onto the floor beside the boy, the book open across his lap. But understand, little one, that some truths are heavy, even when they're wrapped in the pretty language of legends. Eli nodded solemnly, and Sierra found herself sitting down too, drawn despite her better judgment. Darius's voice changed as he began to read deeper, almost hypnotic. The moon goddess saw that wolves were noble creatures, fierce and loyal, but they lived short, lonely lives. So she blessed certain wolves with the ability to take human form, to walk in both worlds. These became the first shifters. Like you, Eli whispered. Like me, Darius agreed. But the goddess knew that power without purpose leads to chaos. So she created the bond, the sacred connection between souls. Each shifter would have one perfect mate, one person whose soul sang to theirs. When they found each other, they would be complete, stronger together than apart. How do they know? Eli asked. When they find their mate, the bond makes itself known, a scent unlike any other, a pull that can't be denied, eyes that recognize each other even across crowded rooms. Darius's gaze flickered to Sierra for just a heartbeat. It's instinct, deeper than thought. Sierra's mouth went dry. She remembered the first time she'd seen Cade, the way the world had seemed to tilt, the way his scent, pine and earth and something wild had made her dizzy, the way his eyes had locked onto hers and known. She'd thought it was just attraction, chemistry. But what if it had been more? What happens if they don't want to be mates? Eli asked. What if one of them says no? Darius's expression darkened. Rejecting a mate bond is complicated. It's possible, but it comes at a cost. Pain, emptiness, a sense of incompleteness that never fully heals. That's sad. Yes, it is. Sarah's hands were trembling. She clasped them together tightly. This is just a story, Eli, a fairy tale. Is it? Darius looked at her directly. Or is it the truth your son deserves to know about his heritage? He's 3, and already asking questions you can't answer. His voice was gentle but relentless. What will you tell him when he's older? When he starts to feel the pull toward his wolf nature? When he wonders why he's different from everyone around him? I'll tell him the truth. Which truth? The sanitized version where his father is just a man who wasn't ready to be a parent? Or the real one where his father is an alpha who shares a sacred bond with someone and chose to walk away? The room spun. Sierra stood abruptly, needing distance. You don't know what you're talking about. Don't I? Darius rose too, the book forgotten. You said the father rejected you. Said you weren't wanted. But a shifter doesn't reject a human woman unless... He stopped, his eyes widening with realization. You were his mate. No, you were. That's why you ran. Why you've been hiding. His voice was raw. He felt the bond and rejected it. Rejected you. Stop. Tears burned behind Sierra's eyes. Did he mark you? Even partially? She didn't answer. Couldn't. But her hand moved unconsciously to her shoulder, to the small scar hidden beneath her shirt, the place where Cade's teeth had grazed her skin in a moment of passion. She'd thought it was just a love bite, but the way it had burned, the way it had felt like fire and ice and connection. He marked you, Darius breathed, even if he didn't complete it, and then he sent you away. He didn't know I was pregnant. It doesn't matter. An alpha doesn't mark his mate and walk away. It's unconscionable. It's Darius's hands clenched into fists. What's his name? What pack? I'm not telling you that. He needs to know about his son. About what he's done? No. Sarah's voice cracked like a whip. He made his choice. He doesn't get to unmake it just because there's a child now. Eli is mine. My responsibility. My son. And I won't let some ancient supernatural law tell me otherwise. Mama? Eli's small voice was frightened. Are you mad at Darius? Sarah forced herself to breathe, to calm. She crouched beside her son, smoothing his dark hair. No, baby. I'm not mad. Just talking about grown-up things. About my daddy? Her heart shattered. A little bit. Is he a wolf? Like in the story? Sarah looked up at Darius, silently pleading for help. For once his expression was kind. Your father is complicated, Darius said carefully. But I can tell you one thing with certainty: if he knew about you, if he understood what he'd missed, he would regret his choices every day for the rest of his life. How do you know? Because any man would be honored to have a son like you. The simple honesty in his voice made Sarah's throat tight. Eli beamed, and for a moment, everything felt almost normal, almost safe. Then lightning split the sky so close the cabin shook. The lights flickered and died, plunging them into darkness broken only by firelight. And somewhere in that darkness, Darius growled a sound too deep, too inhuman to come from a man's throat. Get behind me, he ordered. Now. What's wrong? Someone's here. His eyes were glowing now, pure amber fire. And they're not friendly. Sarah grabbed Eli, pulling him close as Darius moved to the window. His entire body had changed, not shifted, but prepared, ready for violence. Who is it? She whispered. Scouts. Maybe hunters. He bared his teeth. They've caught the boy's scent. Fear flooded Sarah's veins. But you said this was neutral ground. It is, which means whoever's out there doesn't care about the old laws. Darius turned to face her, and his expression was grim. They're here for your son, and they won't leave without him. Darius moved with lethal grace, extinguishing even the firelight until the cabin was swallowed in darkness. Sarah's eyes struggled to adjust, but she could hear everything, the whisper of fabric as Darius positioned himself by the door. Eli's frightened breathing against her chest, and outside, barely audible over the storm, the crunch of boots on wet earth. How many? Sarah whispered, her lips barely moving. 3, maybe 4, Darius's voice came from the shadows. Stay quiet, don't move unless I tell you to. Eli whimpered, and Sarah clamped her, hand gently over his mouth. Her heart slammed against her ribs so hard she was certain whoever was outside could hear it. A knock shattered the silence. 3 sharp raps against the heavy wooden door. Darius Kane. The voice from outside was male, smooth, almost friendly. We know you're in there. And we know you have company. Darius didn't respond. Sarah could barely make out his silhouette, coiled and ready to strike. We don't want trouble, the voice continued. We're just here for the halfling. Hand him over, and we'll be on our way. You can go back to your hermit existence, and everyone walks away clean. This is neutral ground, Darius called back, his voice steady. You have no authority here. A laugh, cold and sharp. Neutral ground means nothing when there's a rogue halfling wandering the territories. He's a liability. You know the laws as well as I do. The boy is under my protection. Your protection? Another voice joined in, female this time, with an edge like broken glass. You're packless, Kane. Your protection means nothing. You're nobody. Sarah felt Darius flinch at the words, though his stance didn't change. The Crescent Valley Pack has claimed rights to any unclaimed halfling in these mountains, the woman continued. We've tracked this one for days. His scent is all over the roads. Careless. Dangerous. He's a child, Darius said quietly. 3 years old. What kind of monsters claim a toddler? The smart kind. Alpha blood runs through him. We can smell it from here. Do you have any idea what he'll be worth when he comes of age? What he could become with proper training? The woman's voice dropped lower. Or what kind of threat he poses if left to grow wild? His father clearly didn't want him. But we do. Sarah's breath caught. Eli trembled in her arms. You're not taking him. Darius said flatly. Then we have a problem. The friendly tone vanished from the male voice. Because we're not leaving without him. So you have two choices. Kane, step aside, or we go through you. I'd like to see you try. The words were barely out of his mouth when the door exploded inward. Wood splintered, and 3 figures burst through faster than anything human. Sarah screamed, clutching Eli as Darius launched himself forward. The first attacker went down hard, Darius's fist connecting with a sickening crunch, but the other 2 were on him instantly, and Sarah watched in horror as they fought a blur of movement too fast to track. Growls filled the cabin, inhuman and terrifying. The back window. Darius roared. Go! Sarah didn't think. She ran, stumbling through the darkness with Eli clutched against her chest. Behind her, the sounds of violence escalated, furniture shattering, bodies hitting walls. A howl split the air, raw and agonized. She found the window by feel, fumbling with the latch. Her fingers were shaking so badly she could barely grip it. Come on, the latch gave. She shoved the window open and practically threw Eli through it, climbing out after him into the driving rain. The storm hit her like a wall, instantly soaking them both. Mama, Darius, we have to run. She grabbed his hand and plunged into the forest. The trees closed around them like grasping hands. Sarah ran blind, branches tearing at her clothes and skin. Eli kept pace somehow too fast for a normal child, his wolf blood lending him speed and agility she couldn't match. Behind them, a howl rose above the storm. Not human. Not even close. Faster, Sarah gasped, though her lungs were already burning. They broke through a thicket and suddenly the ground disappeared. Sarah's stomach lurched as they tumbled down an embankment, mud and rocks tearing at them. They hit the bottom in a tangle of limbs, Sarah's head cracking against something hard. Stars exploded across her vision. Blood ran hot down her temple. Mama! Eli's voice was panicked. Mama, get up! She tried. God, she tried. But her body wouldn't cooperate, limbs heavy and unresponsive. Through the ringing in her ears, she heard footsteps approaching. Slow, confident. Well, the female voice from before. That was easier than expected. Sarah forced her eyes open. A woman stood above them tall, beautiful in a sharp-edged way, with silver blonde hair plastered to her skull by rain. Her eyes glowed amber in the darkness. The boy, she said, extending her hand toward Eli. Come here, little wolf. No. Eli pressed himself against Sarah, his small body shaking. I'm not asking, child. You belong to Crescent Valley now. Your alpha will be very pleased to meet you. He's not yours, Sarah managed, tasting blood. He belongs to no one. Such human sentiment. The woman crouched down, her smile predatory. Let me explain how this works. The boy has alpha blood, possibly from Black Pine territory, given the markers we're reading. That makes him valuable, dangerous, a potential heir or a potential rival, depending on how he's raised. Black Pine? Sarah's heart stopped. Oh yes. We know exactly which alpha sired him, Cade Thornwood, isn't it? The Obsidian Moonpack's golden boy. The woman's eyes gleamed. Does he know he has a son? Does he know you ran rather than face rejection properly? Don't. Cade rejected his mate bond and sent you away. How very tragic. How very convenient for us. She reached for Eli. The boy is unclaimed, unwanted by his father, which means he's fair game. Eli's eyes flashed gold. Don't touch my mama. The change was instantaneous and terrifying. His small body convulsed, bones shifting beneath skin. Not a full transformation, he was too young, too inexperienced, but enough. Claws extended from his fingertips. Fangs pushed through his gums. The woman jerked back. Impossible. He's too young to shift. Eli lunged with a child's snarl and a predator's instinct. His claws raked across the woman's arm, drawing blood. She screamed, more in shock than pain. You little beast. A massive shape slammed into her from the side, sending her sprawling. Darius stood over them, blood-soaked, breathing hard, but very much alive. His eyes burned like molten gold. I told you, he growled. You're not taking him. The woman scrambled to her feet. This isn't over, Kane. The pack will come. In numbers you can't fight. Let them come. She looked between Darius and the half-shifted child, calculation clear in her expression. Then she smiled cold and knowing. Interesting, she said softly. Very interesting indeed. The packless wolf protecting an alpha's rejected son. I wonder what that's really about. Get out. We're leaving. For now. She backed toward the trees, still smiling. But this changes things. The boy is more than we thought. More dangerous. More valuable. Her gaze slid to Sarah. And you, little human. You've been keeping secrets. Important ones. Then she was gone, melting into the darkness like she'd never been there. Darius immediately crouched beside Sarah, his hands surprisingly gentle as he checked her head wound. Can you stand? Eli is fine, scared, but fine. He helped her sit up. That partial shift shouldn't have been possible. Not at his age. Sarah looked at her son. Eli's claws had retracted, fangs receding, but his eyes still glowed faintly. He looked terrified of himself. What's happening to me? He whispered. Darius met Sarah's gaze over the boy's head. In his eyes, she saw the truth they'd both been avoiding. Eli wasn't just any halfling. He was something more, something dangerous. And now, everyone would be hunting him. They made it back to the cabin just as dawn broke through the storm clouds. The interior was destroyed, furniture overturned, claw marks gouged deep into the wooden walls, blood splattered across the floor. Sarah's stomach turned, but Darius moved through the wreckage with calm efficiency, gathering supplies and stuffing them into a weathered pack. We can't stay here, he said, not looking at her. They'll be back. With reinforcements. Sarah nodded numbly. She sat on the one remaining intact chair, Eli curled in her lap. The boy had been silent since the attack, his eyes fixed on his small hands, as if expecting claws to emerge again at any moment. How is this possible? She asked quietly. You said halflings can't shift, that they're too unstable. Most can't. Not until adolescence at the earliest, and even then it's rare. Darius paused in his packing, his jaw tight. But Eli isn't most halflings. What does that mean? He turned to face her fully. Alpha blood is different, more concentrated, more powerful. And if his father truly is Cade Thornwood, he shook his head. The Thornwood line is one of the oldest in North America, pure alpha lineage going back centuries. That kind of power doesn't dilute easily, even mixed with human blood. So Eli is what? Stronger than other halflings? Potentially. If he survives long enough to learn control. Darius's expression was grim. What happened out there, the partial shift triggered by protective instinct that's unheard of in a child his age. It means the wolf is closer to the surface than it should be, fighting to get out. Is that bad? It's dangerous, for him and everyone around him. Darius crouched in front of Eli, his voice gentling. Hey, little wolf, look at me. Eli's eyes lifted slowly, still glowing faintly amber. What you did was brave, Darius said. You protected your mother. That's what wolves do, we protect our pack. But I hurt that lady, Eli whispered. I wanted to hurt her. She was trying to take you away. Your instincts responded appropriately. It felt good. When the claws came out, Eli's voice broke. Does that make me bad? Sarah's heart shattered. She opened her mouth, but Darius spoke first. No, it makes you a wolf, and wolves aren't bad or good, they just are. But with power comes responsibility. You have to learn control, understanding, how to choose when to let the wolf out and when to keep it inside. Can you teach me? The question hung in the air. Darius stood abruptly, turning away, his shoulders tense. That's not my place, he said roughly. Why not? Sarah asked. You clearly know what you're talking about. You fought off 3 shifters alone. You understand this world better than I ever could. Because I'm not Pack, I can't offer him what he needs. What does he need? Structure, community, training from experienced wolves who can guide him through his first real shift when it comes. Darius resumed packing with renewed intensity. He needs a pack, Sarah. Not a broken loner living in the woods. You're not broken. His laugh was bitter. You don't know what you're talking about. Then tell me. She stood, settling Eli in the chair. You know everything about us, our secrets, our fears, what we're running from. But you're still a mystery. Who are you really, Darius Kane? And why are you living out here? Alone? For a long moment, she thought he wouldn't answer. Then he sank onto the edge of the destroyed couch, his head in his hands. I was Pack once, born into Silvercrest, one of the most prestigious packs in the Northwest. My father was Beta. I was supposed to follow in his footsteps. Marry well, strengthen alliances, His voice was hollow. I had a mate. Luna. We were bonded young. 18. The ceremony was beautiful. Everyone said we were perfect together. Sarah's chest tightened at the pain in his voice. What happened? She died. The words were flat, final. Rogue, attack during a territory dispute. She was pregnant, 3 months. I was supposed to be with her, but I was delayed at a council meeting. By the time I got there, he stopped, his hands clenching into fists. There was nothing left to save. Darius. I lost control. Went feral, killed every rogue I could find and didn't stop there. Started seeing enemies everywhere. My own pack had to restrain me. He looked up, and his eyes were haunted. When I finally came back to myself, I knew I couldn't stay. The bond breaking had damaged something fundamental in me, made me unstable, dangerous. So you left. I was exiled. Officially, it was termed voluntary separation for the safety of the pack. Unofficially, I was cast out because I was broken goods, a widowed mate who'd gone rogue. His smile was bitter. I've been here ever since. 10 years, alone. Sarah moved closer, drawn by the raw honesty in his confession. And you've never tried to rejoin a pack? Find a new community? A wolf whose mate has died doesn't get a second chance at bonding. The connection was severed too violently. I'm essentially neutered, supernaturally speaking. He met her gaze. That's why I can't help your son long term. I'm not whole anymore. Not really, Pack. That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. He blinked. Excuse me? You fought off 3 trained shifters to protect a child you just met. You're sitting here bleeding from a dozen wounds, and your first concern is our safety, not your own. Sierra crossed her arms. That doesn't sound broken to me. That sounds like someone who still knows exactly what it means to protect Pack. Sarah, and maybe Eli doesn't need a perfect pack with perfect wolves who do everything by some ancient rulebook. Maybe he just needs someone who understands what it's like to be caught between 2 worlds. Someone who survived being broken and put himself back together. She held his gaze. Someone like you. Darius stood. And for a moment she thought he might argue. Instead, he just looked at her, really looked, like he was seeing her for the first time. You're asking me to do something I'm not capable of, he said quietly. I'm asking you to try, for Eli's sake. And what about you? The question was soft, dangerous. What are you asking for yourself, Sarah? The air between them shifted, charged with something she didn't want to name. She was acutely aware of how close he was standing, how his scent, pine and rain and something wild made her head spin, how his eyes had darkened to deep amber. I don't know, she admitted. I just know I can't do this alone anymore. You were mated to an alpha, marked, even partially. That bond was rejected. You said it yourself, the damage can't fully heal. Her voice was barely a whisper. But maybe damage recognizes damage. Maybe broken recognizes broken. Sarah, a small voice interrupted them. Are we going to stay with Darius? They both turned to find Eli watching them with those 2 knowing eyes. Darius looked at Sarah. Sarah looked at her son. And in that moment, she made a decision that terrified and exhilarated her in equal measure. For now, she said. If he'll have us. Darius was silent for a long moment. Then so quietly she almost missed it. The guest cabin is 2 miles north. Smaller than this one, but intact. No one knows about it. Is that a yes? It's a maybe. He shouldered the pack. But we need to move. Now. Before Crescent Valley regroups, Sarah lifted Eli into her arms. As she passed Darius, he caught her wrist gently. This is a mistake, he said. Probably. I'm not what you need. Let me be the judge of that. His thumb brushed across her pulse point, and she felt it, that electric connection. Not the overwhelming force of a mate bond, but something gentler. Something built on choice rather than fate. Something that might actually last. Come on, he said finally. We've got a long walk ahead. And together, they stepped into the dawn. The guest cabin was everything Darius had promised. Small, secluded, and utterly invisible unless you knew exactly where to look. It sat in a hollow surrounded by ancient pines, protected from view by natural rock formations and overgrown vegetation. Sarah wouldn't have found it in 1,000 years, but Darius led them straight to it, moving through the forest like he was part of it. Inside, the space was sparse, but clean. One main room with a kitchenette, a small bedroom, and a loft accessible by a ladder. A wood stove sat cold in the corner, waiting to be lit. "It's not much," Darius said, setting down the pack. "But it's off-grid. No one's been here in years." "It's perfect," Sarah meant it. After the violence of the previous night, the simple safety of 4 walls felt like a miracle. Eli had fallen asleep on the walk, exhausted by fear and the aftermath of his partial shift. Sarah carried him to the bedroom and laid him on the narrow bed, pulling a faded quilt over his small form. His face was peaceful in sleep, so innocent it made her chest ache. When she emerged, Darius had already started a fire in the stove. The flames cast dancing shadows across his face, highlighting the bruises darkening along his jaw, the cuts that marked his arms. "You're hurt," she said. "I'll heal." He didn't look up from the fire. Shifters recover fast. "Let me help anyway." "Sarah, please." She moved closer. "You've done so much for us. Let me do this." After a moment, he nodded and sank into one of the chairs. Sarah found a first aid kit in the pack basic, but serviceable, and began cleaning the worst of his wounds. His skin was warm beneath her fingers. Too warm. She could feel the rapid healing already happening, tissue knitting together faster than should be possible. But there were still glass fragments to remove, deep scratches to disinfect. "This one's bad," she murmured, examining a gash across his shoulder. 3-on-1 tends to leave marks. His voice was tight. "The female Cassandra, she's known for fighting dirty. You know her?" "Everyone knows the Crescent Valley Pack. They're ambitious, ruthless. They've been expanding their territory for years, absorbing smaller packs, eliminating resistance." He winced as she pressed antiseptic to the wound. "If they want Eli, they won't stop. Not until they have him or until someone stops them permanently. Can we run? Keep moving? For how long?" Eli's scent is distinctive now. Any shifter within a mile can track him. And after last night, after he shifted, word will spread. Every pack in the region will know there's a 3-year-old halfling with alpha blood wandering around unclaimed. Sarah's hands stilled. "So what do we do?" "There's only one real option." Darius met her eyes. "You go to Blackpine, to Cade Thornwood. Tell him about his son." "No." The word was immediate, visceral. "Sarah, listen to me." I said no. I won't go crawling back to a man who rejected me, who made it clear I was nothing to him. This isn't about your pride. It's about Eli's safety. Darius's voice was urgent now. If Cade claims him officially, recognizes him as Pack, as heir, no one would dare touch him. Not Crescent Valley, not anyone. An Alpha's acknowledged son is untouchable. And what makes you think Cade would claim him? He didn't want me. Why would he want a halfling child he never asked for? Because he's an Alpha. And Alphas protect their bloodline above all else. Darius leaned forward. You don't have to like Cade. Don't have to forgive him. But you have to give him the chance to do right by his son. You don't understand what you're asking. Sarah's voice broke. Do you know what it was like? Feeling that connection, that certainty that he was meant for me, and then having him look me in the eye and tell me it was a mistake? That I was human and he needed someone stronger. Someone wolf. Someone worthy. Darius's expression softened. He said that to you? Not in those exact words. But the meaning was clear. She turned away, blinking back tears. I was convenient. Available. But when it came down to it, I wasn't enough. And I won't put Eli through that same rejection. What if you're wrong? What if Cade rejected the bond because he was scared? Because mixing human and wolf blood is complicated and dangerous and he didn't know how to handle it? That doesn't make it hurt less. No. But it might mean he'd react differently knowing about Eli. Darius stood, moving to face her. 4 years ago, you were an abstraction. A problem he didn't know how to solve. But Eli is real. Tangible. His son. That changes everything. Sarah wanted to argue. Wanted to insist that Darius was wrong. That going to Blackpine would only lead to more pain. But a small, traitorous part of her wondered if he might be right. I need time to think, she said finally. We don't have much time. Crescent Valley will regroup. Others will hear about last night. And every hour Eli remains unclaimed is an hour he's in danger. I know. She pressed her hands to her face. I'm terrified. Of seeing Cade again. Of him rejecting Eli the way he rejected me. Of making the wrong choice and losing my son because of it. Warm hands settled on her shoulders. Darius's touch was gentle, grounding. You're the strongest person I've met in a long time, he said quietly. You've kept Eli safe for 4 years on your own. protected him from a world you barely understand. That takes incredible courage. It doesn't feel courageous. It feels like I'm constantly failing him. You're not. You're doing everything a mother should do, putting your child first, even when it costs you. His thumbs trace small circles on her shoulders. But sometimes protecting someone means asking for help, even from people who've hurt you. Sarah leaned back slightly, allowing herself to draw comfort from his presence. When had he become this, not just a stranger offering shelter, but someone she trusted? Someone whose opinion mattered? "What would you do?" she asked. "If Eli were your son?" Darius was quiet for a long moment. "I'd swallow my pride. I'd go to Blackpine, and I'd make Cade Thornwood look his son in the eye before deciding whether to claim him or not. And if he refuses, then we figure out another way. Together." The word hung in the air between them. Together. As if this was a shared burden now. As if Darius had somehow become part of their small, broken pack. "Why are you doing this?" Sarah turned to face him fully. "You said you're not pack anymore. That you can't offer us what we need. So why get involved at all?" His expression was complex pain and longing and something else she couldn't name. "Because I know what it's like to lose everything," he said simply. "And I won't stand by and watch a child suffer because the adults in his life are too proud or too scared to do what's necessary. It's more than that, though. Isn't it?" He didn't answer. Didn't need to. She could see it in his eyes, the way he looked at Eli like he was precious. The way he looked at her like she was brave. The way his walls were crumbling despite every effort to keep them intact. "Darius." A sound from outside cut her off. Both of them froze. Footsteps. Multiple sets. Circling the cabin. "They found us," Darius breathed. His eyes flashed amber. "Take Eli. Go out. The back window. There's a ravine 50 yards north, hide there. What about you? I'll hold them off. Buy you time." "No. We stay together. Sarah." The door exploded inward. But this time, it wasn't Crescent Valley wolves who entered. It was a single man. Tall, powerfully built, with dark hair and eyes the color of storm clouds. He wore authority like a second skin, and when he looked at Sarah, recognition flared across his face. "Well," Cade Thornwood said softly, "this is unexpected." Time stopped. Sarah couldn't breathe, couldn't move, couldn't do anything but stare at the man who had shattered her world 4 years ago. Cade looked older lines around his eyes that hadn't been there before, a hardness to his jaw that spoke of difficult years. But he was still devastatingly handsome, still commanding in a way that made every instinct scream at her to either submit or run. She chose neither. "Get out," she said, her voice ice. Cade's eyes widened slightly. "Sarah, I said get out. You have no right to be here. I have every right." His gaze shifted to Darius, who had positioned himself between Cade and Sarah. "Stand down, Kane. This doesn't concern you." "Everything in this cabin concerns me." Darius's voice was steady, but Sarah could see the tension in his shoulders. Cade was an alpha dominant, powerful, dangerous, and Darius was packless, which meant he had no official standing to challenge him. But he held his ground anyway. Cade's expression tightened. "I'm not here to fight. I'm here because my territory scouts reported unusual activity. Crescent Valley wolves crossing into neutral ground. A halfling child with—" He stopped, his nostrils flaring. His eyes went very wide. "With my scent." The silence that followed was deafening. "I don't know what you're talking about," Sarah said, but her voice wavered. "Don't lie to me." Cade's voice dropped to something barely human. "I can smell him. My bloodline. My—" His gaze snapped to the bedroom door. "Where is he?" "Stay away from him." Sarah moved to block the door, her heart hammering. "How old?" "That's none of your business." "How old?" Each word was precise. "Dangerous." 3.5, Darius answered quietly. "Born approximately 7 months after you sent Sarah away." Cade's face went ashen. He swayed slightly, catching himself against the doorframe. "You were pregnant. When you left, you were carrying my child." "I didn't know," Sarah said. "Not until 2 weeks after. And by then you'd made your position very clear. You didn't want me, so why would you want him?" "Want him?" Cade's voice cracked. "He's my son, my heir, my—" He pressed his hands to his face. "Oh God, what have I done?" "You rejected your mate," Darius said flatly. "Chose pack politics over the bond. Sent away the one person the moon chose for you because she was human and you were too much of a coward to face the consequences. Cade's head snapped up, his eyes blazing. You have no idea what you're talking about. Then enlighten us. For a moment Sierra thought Cade might attack. His entire body vibrated with barely contained violence. But then he deflated, the fight draining out of him. The council, he said hoarsely. My pack's council of elders. They found out about the bond, about Sierra, and they gave me an ultimatum. Reject the human mate or forfeit my position as alpha. Sarah's stomach dropped. What? They said a human mate would weaken the bloodline, make me vulnerable. That I had a responsibility to choose a wolf partner who could strengthen pack alliances. Cade's laugh was bitter. They were so certain, so absolute, and I believed them, believed that duty mattered more than destiny. So you threw me away. Sarah's voice was hollow. I thought I was protecting you, protecting the pack. I thought. He met her eyes, and she saw genuine anguish there. I thought the bond would fade, that we'd both move on, find others. I didn't know it would feel like dying. Didn't know I'd spend every day for 4 years feeling like half of me was missing. Good, Sarah said coldly. I hope it hurt. I hope it destroyed you, because that's what you did to me. I know, and I'm sorry. More sorry than you could possibly understand. Cade took a shaky breath. But we can fix this. We can fix what? 4 years of abandonment? 4 years of raising your son alone while you played alpha? Sarah's voice rose. You don't get to walk back in here and claim us like we're lost property. I'm not trying to claim you. I'm trying to protect my son. Our son. And he's been perfectly safe without you. Has he? Cade's gaze sharpened. Because from what I heard, Crescent Valley tracked him here. Tried to take him. He partial shifted at 3 years old, which should be impossible and suggests he's dangerously unstable. He looked between Sierra and Darius. You're hiding in a safe house with a packless wolf who can't offer you real protection. That doesn't sound safe to me. Darius growled low in his throat. I've kept them alive. For now. But what happens when Crescent Valley comes back with 20 wolves? 50? What happens when word spreads that there's an unclaimed alpha heir out there, and every ambitious pack in the region decides they want him? Then we'll run. You can't run forever. Cade's voice was firm. Eventually someone will catch you. And when they do, they won't be gentle. They'll take Eli, and they'll kill anyone who tries to stop them. Including you, Sierra. The words hit like physical blows. Because he was right. She'd known it even before Darius said it. Running was only a temporary solution. What are you proposing? She asked quietly. Come back to Blackpine. Both of you. I'll claim Eli officially as my heir. Under pack law, that makes him untouchable. No one would dare move against him. And me? Cade hesitated. The bond is still there. Damaged, but present. We could. No. Sarah's voice was absolute. I won't go back to you. Won't pretend the last 4 years didn't happen. Won't let you play the hero now that it's convenient. Pain flashed across Cade's face. I'm not trying to play hero. I'm trying to give my son what he deserves: safety, training, a pack that will protect him. He has protection. Sarah glanced at Darius. He has us. Us? Cade's eyes narrowed as he looked between them. What exactly is us? None of your business. It's very much my business if you're... Cade stopped, his nostrils flaring. His expression darkened. You're bonding with him. With Kane. I'm not bonding with anyone. I can smell it, the connection forming. It's faint, but it's there. Cade's voice dropped dangerously low. You're my mate, Sarah. The bond can't be replaced with whatever this is. You rejected that bond, Darius said quietly. The moment you sent her away, you forfeited any claim to it. That's not how it works. That's exactly how it works. Rejection severs the bond. Maybe not completely, but enough that she's free to choose her own path. The two men faced each other, the air between them crackling with tension. Alpha versus packless wolf. Storm cloud eyes versus amber fire. And Sierra stood between them, caught in the gravity of both. Stop, she said. Both of you. This isn't about bonds or claims or who has rights to what. This is about Eli. About what's best for him. Coming to Blackpine is what's best for him, Cade insisted. Is it? Or is it what's best for your pack? Your reputation? Sierra crossed her arms. Because the Cade I knew 4 years ago cared more about duty than love. What's changed? Everything. His voice cracked. Losing you changed everything. And now, knowing I have a son, knowing I've already missed 3 years of his life. He swallowed hard. I can't lose him too. Please, Sarah, let me do this. Let me protect him. Before she could answer, a small voice came from the bedroom. Mama? Everyone froze. Eli stood in the doorway, rubbing his eyes sleepily. His gaze drifted over Sarah, over Darius, and finally landed on Cade. The moment their eyes met, something electric passed between them. Eli's eyes flashed amber, the same exact shade as Cade's. Recognition. Daddy? Eli whispered. Cade's knees buckled, and Sarah's world tilted once again. Cade was on his knees before he realized he'd moved. His hands shook as he stared at the small boy in the doorway, dark hair like his own, delicate features that echoed Sarah's, but eyes that were unmistakably Thornwood, the ancient bloodline recognizing itself across the distance. Eli, come here, Sarah said, her voice tight. But Eli didn't move toward his mother. He took a tentative step forward, toward Cade, his head tilted in that curious way children have when encountering something both familiar and strange. You smell like me, Eli said simply. Like the wild part. Cade's breath caught. Yes, I do. Are you really my daddy? The question shattered something in Cade's chest. He looked up at Sarah, silently asking permission. She stood rigid, fear and anger warring across her face. But after a long moment, she gave a single, tight nod. Yes, Cade said hoarsely. I'm your father. Eli processed this with the serious consideration of a child far older than his years. Mama said you had to go away. That you didn't know about me. She was right. I didn't know. But if I had, Cade's voice broke. If I had known about you, Eli, I would have moved heaven and earth to be there. Why didn't you want Mama? The innocent question hit like a blade between the ribs. Cade's gaze snapped to Sarah, saw the pain she was trying to hide, and felt his own shame burn through him. I made a terrible mistake, he said carefully. I was scared and foolish, and I hurt your mother very badly. That's something I have to live with. But you, he held out a trembling hand. You are not a mistake. You're a miracle I don't deserve. Eli studied the offered hand, then looked back at Sarah. Is it okay, Mama? Sarah's eyes were bright with unshed tears. It's okay, baby. He won't hurt you. Only then did Eli step forward and place his small hand in Cade's much larger one. The moment they touched, power rippled through the room, visible, tangible, like heat waves rising from summer pavement. Both their eyes flashed brilliant amber, and Eli gasped. What was that? He whispered. Bloodline recognition, Darius said quietly from behind Sarah. Alpha to heir. The pack bond trying to form. Cade pulled Eli closer, drinking in every detail. The boy was small for his age, but sturdy, with calluses on his fingers that suggested he'd learned to work with his hands. He smelled like Sarah lavender and human warmth, but beneath it was the unmistakable scent of wolf, of Thornwood blood. You're strong, Cade said, his voice thick. I can feel it. The wolf inside you. It scares me sometimes. It wants to come out. But Mama says I have to. Keep it hidden. Your mother was protecting you. But you don't have to hide anymore. Not if you come with me. Eli's eyes widened. Come where? To Blackpine. To your pack. Your home. Cade looked up at Sarah. To where you belong. He belongs with me, Sarah said sharply. He belongs with both of us. With his pack. Cade stood, still holding Eli's hand. I know you don't trust me, Sarah. I know I destroyed that when I sent you away. But this isn't about us anymore. It's about giving our son the future he deserves. A future where he's shaped into whatever your pack council wants him to be, where he's nothing but a political asset, a future where he's safe, trained, connected to his heritage. Cade's voice was urgent. You've done an incredible job raising him alone, but you can't teach him about his wolf nature. Can't show him how to shift properly, how to control his instincts, how to navigate pack dynamics. He needs that, Sarah, and I can give it to him. Darius can teach. Him, Cain is packless, broken bond. He can teach survival, maybe, but not pack structure, not proper hierarchy. Cade's gaze shifted to Darius. No offense. Plenty taken, Darius said coldly. Eli tugged on Cade's hand. Will there be other kids? At Blackpine? The question clearly caught Cade off guard. Yes. Several wolf pups around your age. You'd have playmates, friends who understand what you are. Eli's face lit up in a way Sierra had never seen. Really? Kids who can do the things I can do. Who have the eye-changing and the good-smelling and everything. Yes. You'd fit right in. Sarah's heart cracked, because she could see it, the longing in her son's expression. The desperate need to belong somewhere, to not be the weird kid with the strange abilities. She'd given him everything she could, but she couldn't give him this, couldn't give him community with others like him. Eli, go back to the bedroom for a minute, she said quietly. The adults need to talk. But Mama, please baby. Eli's face fell, but he obeyed, reluctantly releasing Cade's hand and trudging back to the bedroom. The moment the door closed, Sarah rounded on Cade. Don't you dare use his loneliness against me, she hissed. Don't manipulate him by offering things you know I can't provide. I'm not manipulating anyone. I'm stating facts. Cade's voice was steady. Eli needs pack, needs training, needs protection that goes beyond running from cabin to cabin in the middle of the night. He's been safe. Until Crescent Valley found him. Until he partial shifted and revealed how powerful he really is. Cade moved closer. Word is already spreading, Sarah. Every pack within 500 miles will have heard by now there's an unclaimed alpha heir with Thornwood blood. They'll come for him. All of them. Then we'll keep running. For how long? Until he's 5? 10? Until he's strong enough to fight back but has no idea how because no one taught him? Cade's voice dropped. Or, until someone catches you and you can't protect him anymore? The words hit their mark. Sierra felt tears slip down her cheeks. I hate you, she whispered. I hate that you're right. I hate that I need you. I hate all of this. I know. Cade's expression softened. And you have every right to hate me. But our son, he deserves better than our pain, better than our mistakes. Darius stepped forward, his hand settling on Sierra's shoulder. You don't have to decide right now. We can... Yes, she does. Cade's eyes narrowed at the contact. Crescent Valley won't wait. They'll regroup and come back. Probably tonight. And when they do, they'll bring overwhelming force. Cain can't hold off an entire pack. Neither can you. But you can? Sarah challenged. With my pack behind me? Absolutely. The moment I claim Eli, he becomes Black Pine territory. Attacking him becomes an act of war. Crescent Valley is ambitious. But they're not stupid enough to go to war with one of the oldest packs in the wine region. Sarah looked at Darius, searching for another option, but his expression was resigned. He's not wrong, Darius said quietly. Official claim is the safest route. You're just going to agree with him? After everything? I'm agreeing with reality. Darius's thumb traced her shoulder. I want to keep you both safe. But wanting isn't enough. Cade has resources I don't. Protection I can't offer. So that's it? I just hand over my son to the man who abandoned us? You don't hand him over, Cade said. You come with him. Both of you live at Black Pine. Under my protection. As what? Your rejected mate and your heir? That'll go over well with the council. The council doesn't get a vote anymore. Cade's voice was steel. 4 years ago, I let them influence my decisions. Let them convince me duty mattered more than the mate bond. But I'm alpha now, full alpha, not heir. And I make the laws. What changed? My father stepped down 6 months ago, handed me full control. Cade's jaw tightened. I've spent that time undoing some of his more archaic policies, including the one about human mates. Sarah's breath caught. You changed the law? For you. Because even though I thought I'd lost you forever, I couldn't stomach the idea of another wolf going through what we did. His eyes held hers. Black Pine now recognizes human mates as equal to wolf mates. Full status, full protection. That's huge. It's the least I could do. Though I never imagined, he swallowed hard. I never imagined I'd get a second chance. This isn't a second chance, Sarah said firmly. This is a truce, for Eli's sake. Pain flickered across Cade's face, but he nodded. A truce. I'll take it. Darius's hand tightened on Sarah's shoulder. She covered it with her own, drawing strength. If we do this, if we go to Black Pine, I want guarantees, she said. Name them. Eli stays with me. Always. You don't take him away for training or pack business without my consent. Agreed. I have full say in his education, his upbringing, everything. We share say, but I won't override you. And Darius comes too. Cade's expression hardened. Absolutely not. Then we don't come at all. The two men stared at each other, Alpha and Packless Wolf, both wanting the same thing but for different reasons. Finally, Cade spoke through gritted teeth. Fine. Cain can come. As a guest. But he doesn't get pack status. Doesn't get a vote in Eli's upbringing. I don't want pack status, Darius said. I just want them safe. Sarah looked between them, her heart torn. Then she took a deep breath. All right. We'll go to Blackpine. Cade's expression transformed hope and relief, and something that might have been love. You won't regret this. I already do, Sarah said, but I'm out of options. And as if the universe agreed, a howl split the night. Close, too close. Crescent Valley had found them. The howls multiplied, echoing through the forest like a death knell. Cade moved to the window with predatory speed, his body already changing, muscles swelling, eyes blazing amber. 10, maybe 12. They brought reinforcements. The ravine, Darius said urgently. There's a passage. They'll have it covered. Cade's voice was grim. Cassandra's tactical. She wouldn't leave escape routes open. Sarah's heart hammered as she ran to the bedroom. Eli sat on the bed, eyes wide and glowing in the darkness. He could hear the howls too. Could sense the danger. We have to go, baby, she said, scooping him up. Are the bad wolves back? Yes. But your father and Darius are here. We're going to be okay. She prayed it was true. When she emerged, Cade was on his phone, speaking in rapid, clipped tones. I don't care if it's 3 a.m. Get the pack mobilized. We have a situation at the northern safe house. Crescent Valley is moving on my air. The word air sent visible shock through whoever was on the other end. Cade's expression was, Steele, you heard me correctly. My son. And if a single hair on his head is harmed, I'm declaring war on Crescent Valley and anyone who supports them. He ended the call and turned to Sarah. Reinforcements are 20 minutes out. We don't have 20 minutes, Darius said. As if to prove his point, something heavy slammed against the cabin's door. Once, twice, the wood splintered on the third impact, and 3 wolves burst through massive, fur slick with rain, eyes gleaming with predatory intelligence. Cade shifted in a heartbeat. His transformation was fluid, powerful, a wolf the size of a small horse, fur black as midnight, eyes burning like molten gold. He hit the first attacker mid-leap, jaws closing around its throat. Darius shifted a second later, his wolf form smaller but faster, gray and silver. He took the second wolf, the two of them crashing into the kitchenette in a tangle of snarls and snapping teeth. The third wolf's gaze locked on Sarah, on Eli. Sarah backed toward the far wall, clutching her son. The wolf stalked forward, lips pulled back from teeth designed to tear flesh. It was the female from before Cassandra, her sleek brown coat, marked with the scars from Eli's claws. Stay back, Sarah warned, knowing it was useless. Cassandra's laugh was disturbingly human despite her wolf form. She began to shift, bones cracking and reforming until she stood on 2 legs, naked and unashamed. Give me the boy, she said, or I'll take him over your corpse. You'll have to, Sarah said. So be it. Cassandra lunged and Eli's scream tore through the cabin like a physical force. The sound was wrong. Too deep, too resonant, carrying a frequency that made Sarah's bones vibrate. Power exploded from Eli's small body, raw, uncontrolled, pure alpha dominance that had never been taught, never been shaped, but existed anyway because it was in his blood. Every wolf in the cabin froze. Cassandra dropped to the floor, her body convulsing as she fought the compulsion to submit. The other 2 attackers whimpered, pressing their bellies to the ground. Even Cade and Darius were affected, not submitting, but clearly struggling against the weight of that primal command. Eli's eyes blazed like twin suns. His small body shook with the effort of channeling power he didn't understand. Blood trickled from his nose. Stop, Sarah begged. Eli, baby, you have to stop. But he couldn't. The power had a momentum of its own now, building and building until the air itself felt electrified. Cade shifted back to human, his face strained. Eli, listen to me, son. You have to pull it back. You have to control it. I can't. Eli's voice was anguished. It won't stop. The windows shattered, cracks spiderwebbed across the walls. Outside, the howling had ceased, every wolf in the vicinity forced into submission by the overwhelming dominance of an alpha heir who didn't know his own strength. He's going to burn himself out, Darius said urgently, shifting back as well. His body can't handle this much power. I know. Cade was already moving, dropping to his knees in front of Eli. Listen to me. Look at me. You're an alpha, this power is yours to command, not the other way around. You just have to breathe. Focus. Pull it back inside. I don't know how. Yes, you do. It's instinct. Like shifting, like smelling, like knowing friend from foe. Cade placed his hands on Eli's small shoulders. Feel where the power lives inside you. Find that place. Can you feel it? Eli nodded, tears streaming down his face. Good. Now imagine it like water in a cup. You've spilled it all over, but you can pour it back, slowly, carefully, one drop at a time. It's too much. You're a thornwood. We don't back down from hard things. Cade's voice was firm but gentle. Again, one drop at a time. Pull it back. Sarah watched, heart in her throat, as Eli squeezed his eyes shut. His small face was a mask of concentration. And slowly, painfully, slowly the pressure in the room began to ease. The glow in his eyes dimmed. The blood stopped flowing from his nose. His breathing steadied. And finally, the power snapped back inside him like a rubber band, leaving only a small child who looked utterly exhausted. I did it, Eli whispered. You did. Cade pulled him into a fierce embrace. You did so well, Eli. I'm so proud of you. Cassandra chose that moment to make her move. She launched herself at Cade's exposed back, claws extending, and Darius caught her mid-leap, slamming her into the wall hard enough to crack plaster. His hand closed around her throat. Touch the boy, he snarled, and I'll rip your spine out through your teeth. You wouldn't dare, packless filth. Try me. The other two wolves were already fleeing, submission still riding them hard. Through the broken door, Sarah could see more shapes in the darkness, but these were different. Organized. Moving in formation. Cade's pack had arrived. Within moments, the cabin was flooded with wolves, 30 at least, all radiating controlled power and absolute loyalty to their alpha. They surrounded the few remaining Crescent Valley scouts, cutting off any escape. A tall woman with silver-streaked hair shifted to human form. Alpha, what are your orders? Cade stood, still holding Eli. Cassandra attempted to kidnap my heir. Crescent Valley violated neutral territory and attacked a child under my protection. I want every scout detained. Send a message to their alpha. This is an act of war unless they retreat immediately and offer formal apology. And her? The woman gestured to Cassandra, still pinned by Darius. She faces pack justice. Cade's voice was cold. Attempted murder of an alpha heir carries one sentence. Cassandra's face went white. You can't, I'm protected under Crescent Valley law. You're on Black Pine soil now. My law applies. He turned to Darius. Let her go. My wolves will take her. Darius hesitated, glancing at Sarah. She nodded, and only then did he release Cassandra. Immediately, 3 large wolves surrounded her, herding her toward the door. This isn't over, Thornwood, Cassandra spat. My alpha won't stand for this. Your alpha will accept my terms or face total war. His choice. Cade's tone left no room for argument. As Cassandra was dragged away, the silver-haired woman approached Sarah. Her expression was complex surprise, curiosity, and something that might have been respect. You must be the mother, she said quietly. I must be, Sarah replied, unsure what else to say. I'm Margaret, Black Pine's second. We've prepared quarters for you and the young heir. And for... She glanced at Darius. Your companion. He's not my companion. He's... Sarah stopped, unsure how to define what Darius was. Protector? Friend? Something more complicated than either word could capture? He's family, she finished finally. And he's coming with us. Margaret's eyebrow rose, but she simply nodded. As, you wish. Cade approached, Eli drowsing against his shoulder. The sight of them together, father and son, so similar despite the years apart, made Sarah's chest ache. We should go, Cade said softly. It's not safe here anymore. Is anywhere safe? Black Pine is. I promise you that. He looked at Darius. All of you. Darius's expression was unreadable, but he moved to Sarah's side, his presence solid and grounding. Together then, Sarah said. Together, Cade agreed. And as they stepped out into the night surrounded by wolves, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that they weren't just traveling to a new home. They were walking into a future none of them could predict. One that would test every bond, every loyalty, every choice they'd made. But at least they'd face it as a pack. Broken, complicated, and utterly unconventional. But a pack nonetheless. Black Pine was nothing like Sarah remembered. 4 years ago, she'd only seen glimpses of the small town on the outskirts, a few buildings, that served as public-facing businesses. She'd never been to the heart of pack territory. Never seen the compound hidden deep in the mountains where the wolves truly lived. It was breathtaking. The main lodge rose from the forest like something out of a fairy tale, massive timber and stone, windows glowing warm in the pre-dawn darkness. Smaller cabins dotted the landscape, connected by lantern-lit paths. She could see wolves moving between buildings, some in human form, others on 4 legs. A community, a home, everything she couldn't give Eli on her own. "It's bigger than I thought," she murmured. Cade, who'd been walking beside her with Eli asleep in his arms, smiled slightly. "We're one of the largest packs in the Northwest. 300 wolves, give or take. Not all live on the compound, but most do." 300? Sierra's voice rose. "I thought you said there were kids Eli's age, not an entire small town's worth of people." "You'll adjust, and Eli will thrive here." Cade's expression softened as he looked down at their sleeping son. "He's already stronger than any halfling I've ever heard of. With proper training, he could be extraordinary." "He already is extraordinary," Darius said from behind them. "He doesn't need to be molded into something else." Cade's jaw tightened, but he didn't rise to the bait. "I meant no disrespect. I'm only saying that Eli has potential. It would be a waste not to nurture it." "As long as nurturing doesn't mean erasing his humanity," Sierra said quietly. "He's half human. That's not something to be trained out of him." "I wouldn't dream of it." Cade met her eyes. "You're his mother. Your influence matters just as much as mine. Maybe more." The words seemed genuine, but Sarah had learned the hard way that Cade's words and actions didn't always align. She'd reserved judgment until she saw how he actually treated Eli and her within pack dynamics. Margaret led them to a cabin slightly apart from the others, larger than most, with a wraparound porch and smoke curling from the chimney. "This is the heir's residence," she explained. "It's been empty for years, but we've prepared it for your arrival." "How did you prepare it so fast?" Sarah asked. "Cade only called an hour ago." Margaret's smile was enigmatic. "We work efficiently when our alpha commands it. You'll find everything you need inside: clothing, food, supplies. If anything is missing, just ask." She left them at the door, melting back into the darkness with the silent grace of her kind. Inside, the cabin was warm and surprisingly cozy. A fire crackled in the stone fireplace. The furniture was a mix of rustic and comfortable handmade quilts, thick rugs, deep chairs that invited sinking into. 2 bedrooms branched off the main space, plus a loft that looked perfect for a child. "This is too much," Sierra said. "It's what you deserve." Cade carried Eli to one of the bedrooms, laying him gently on the bed. The boy didn't stir, exhausted from the bedroom. Power surge earlier. He'll sleep for hours. The first alpha command always drains young wolves. He's 3. He shouldn't be capable of alpha commands at all. No, he shouldn't. Cade pulled a blanket over Eli with surprising tenderness, which means he's either incredibly powerful or incredibly unstable. Possibly both. "Comforting," Darius muttered. Cade straightened, his expression hardening as he faced the other man. "We need to talk. About your place here." "My place is with Sarah and Eli. Your place is as a guest. Nothing more." Cade's alpha dominance leaked into his voice, subtle but unmistakable. "I've allowed you to come because Sierra insisted, but don't mistake tolerance for acceptance. You're packless. You have no standing here." "Cade," Sierra started. "He needs to understand the rules." Cade didn't take his eyes off Darius. "This is my territory. My pack. My family. You're here on sufferance, Kane. One wrong move, and that sufferance ends." Darius's eyes flashed. "Amber. Is that a threat?" "It's a fact." Cade stepped closer, and the air between them crackled with tension. "I know what you are to her, what you're becoming, and I'm telling you right now it ends. Sarah is my mate. The bond may be damaged, but it exists. You can't replace it." "I'm not trying to replace anything. I'm just..." "What? Being her friend? Her protector?" Cade's laugh was harsh. "You think I don't see the way you look at her? The way she looks at you? You're forming a bond, emotional, if not supernatural, and I won't allow it." "You don't get to control who I care about," Sarah said, moving between them. "You rejected me, Cade." You don't get to decide who fills that void now. I made a mistake. I'm trying to fix it. 4 years too late." Her voice was steady despite the tremor in her hands. "I agreed to come here for Eli's safety. Not for you. Not for us. I'm here as his mother. Nothing more." Pain flickered across Cade's face, but his alpha mask slipped back into place. "Understood. But Kane still needs to know his boundaries. He's not Pack. He doesn't share in Pack decisions. And he certainly doesn't share in my family. Then maybe I shouldn't stay," Darius said quietly. "No." Sarah turned to him, grasping his hand. "You promised. You said we'd face this together. I didn't promise to stand between you and your mate. He's not my mate. Not anymore. He gave up that right." She held Darius's gaze, willing him to understand. "You're the one who kept us safe, who taught Eli it's okay to be different, who didn't run when things got dangerous. That matters more than any supernatural bond." "Sarah," Cade said hoarsely, "please, don't do this. I'm not doing anything except choosing who I trust. And right now I trust Darius more than I trust you." The words hung in the air like a death sentence. Cade looked like he'd been struck, his carefully maintained composure cracking. "I deserve that," he said finally. "But I'm still Eli's father, and I still have rights regarding his upbringing, his training, his future in this pack. Rights you only get because I'm allowing it." Sarah's voice was steel wrapped in silk. "Don't forget I could take him and leave. Right now. And you'd have to hunt us down to stop me. I would never. Wouldn't you? Isn't that exactly what tonight was about? Asserting dominance? Making sure everyone knows Eli belongs to Blackpine now?" She released Darius's hand and stepped closer to Cade. "I came here because it's safest for my son. But the moment I feel like you're trying to take him from me, we're gone. Alpha or not." Cade stared at her like he was seeing her for the first time. "You've changed." "I had to. 4 years of single parenthood will do that." "I meant you're stronger, more confident, more—" He stopped, something like admiration crossing his features. "More alpha in your own right." "I'm human. I'll never be alpha. That's not what I meant. An alpha isn't just about supernatural power, it's about the ability to protect, to lead, to make impossible choices for the good of those you love." His voice softened. "You've been doing that since the day you found out you were pregnant. Maybe longer." Sierra's throat tightened. She'd waited 4 years to hear something like acknowledgement from him. And now that it had come, she didn't know what to do with it. "I need to rest," she said finally. "It's been a long night." "Of course. I'll let you settle in." Cade moved toward the door, then paused. "Sarah, for what it's worth, I am sorry. For everything. And I know sorry isn't enough. But I'm going to spend every day trying to earn your trust back. Both of yours." He left before she could respond. The door closed behind him with a quiet click, and suddenly the cabin felt enormous and empty despite Darius's presence. "He's not wrong," Darius said quietly. "About us. About what's forming. I know. A bond between a rejected mate and a packless wolf. It's complicated. Messy. It could hurt you in ways neither of us can predict. Everything about my life is complicated and messy." Sarah turned to face him. "But you make it feel less lonely. Is that so wrong?" "Maybe not wrong. Just dangerous. For both of us." Darius moved closer, his hand coming up to cup her face. "But I'm too selfish to walk away." "Good." She leaned into his touch. "Because I'm too tired to be strong alone anymore." They stood like that for a long moment, finding comfort in shared brokenness. Outside, dawn was breaking over the mountains, painting everything in shades of gold and amber. A new beginning. Or the beginning of the end. Only time would tell. 6 months later, Sarah stood on the porch of their cabin, watching Eli race through the clearing with 3 other wolf pups. They were in their shifted forms, small, clumsy, but learning. Eli's fur was darker than the others, almost black like Cade's, but with silver tips that caught the afternoon light. He was laughing, actually laughing as he tumbled with his friends, the sound pure and uninhibited in a way it had never been before. "He's getting faster," Darius said, appearing beside her with 2 mugs of tea. He'd taken to the small rituals of domesticity with surprising ease: morning runs, evening fires, teaching Eli how to carve wood when the boy was too exhausted from training to shift anymore. "Cade says he'll be the fastest in his age group by winter." Sarah accepted the mug, their fingers brushing. The touch still sent electricity through her, Even after months of these small intimacies, Cade would say that. He's his father. There was less bitterness in Darius's voice now, when he spoke of Cade. The two men had reached an uneasy truce, not friendship, but mutual respect born from shared love for the same child. They took turns training Eli, teaching him different aspects of wolf culture. Cade handled the formal pack education, the hierarchy, the politics. Darius taught him the wild things, how to read the forest, how to trust his instincts, how to be wolf without losing his humanity. And Sierra taught him everything else. Math and reading and kindness and the importance of choosing gentleness even when strength was easier. Together, they were raising something extraordinary. Margaret asked if I'd join the council, Sierra said quietly. Darius's eyebrows rose. The Pack Council? But you're human. Apparently that's exactly why they want me. Cade's been pushing for more progressive policies, and having a human voice on the council would. She shook her head. I haven't decided yet. What does your gut say? My gut says it's insane. I know nothing about pack politics. Your gut also said to run into a cabin during a storm and trust a stranger. How'd that work out? She smiled despite herself. Jury's still out. Liar. He bumped her shoulder with his, gentle and familiar. You know exactly how it worked out. She did. Against all odds, impossibly it had, worked out better than she could have imagined. Blackpine had accepted her not just as the alpha's former mate or the heir's mother, but as herself. The human who'd raised a halfling alone, who'd stood up to an alpha, who'd chosen her own path despite every supernatural law that said she couldn't. They respected strength here, and they'd recognized hers. Mom, watch this! Eli's voice rang out across the clearing. Sarah turned just in time to see her son leap higher than any 3-year-old should be able to, shifting midair from wolf to human, landing on 2 feet with perfect balance. The other pups yipped their approval. Show off, she called, but her heart swelled with pride. Cade emerged from the tree line, having been supervising from a distance. His eyes found hers immediately, the way they always did. The mate bond was still there, fainter now, more like an echo than a living thing, but present. It tugged at her sometimes, especially when he looked at her like that. Like she was something precious he'd lost and found again. Like he was still hoping. He crossed to the porch, his movements fluid and confident. The council meeting is in an hour. You're still coming? To observe. Not to join. Yet. His smile was small but genuine. You'll change your mind. You always do once you see the work that needs doing. Presumptuous. Accurate. He glanced at Darius, and something passed between them. Not hostility, but acknowledgement. Cain. Will you watch Eli during the meeting? Obviously. Thank you. The words came easier now than they had 6 months ago. Cade had learned slowly, painfully, that Darius wasn't his enemy. That love wasn't a finite resource. That Eli having multiple adults who cared for him was strength, not weakness. And Darius had learned that Cade was trying, really trying, not just to win Sierra back, but to be the father Eli deserved, the alpha his pack needed. As Cade headed back toward the main lodge, Sierra found herself studying the life they'd built. The impossible, complicated, beautiful mess of it. Do you ever regret it? Darius asked quietly. Coming here? Letting him back into your life? Every day. She paused. And not at all. Both things are true. That's confusing. Welcome to my life. She turned to face him fully. But there's one thing I don't regret. Not even a little. What's that? You. The word hung between them, heavy with meaning. Trusting you. Choosing you. Whatever this is we're building. Darius set down his mug carefully. Sarah, I know it's complicated. I know the mate bond with Cade is still there, even damaged. I know we can't have what normal people have, the simplicity, the certainty. She stepped closer. But I also know that you make me feel safe. Seen, like I'm enough exactly as I am. You are enough. You've always been enough. Then why does it feel like I'm caught between 2 worlds? 2 men? 2 futures? Because you are. His hand found hers, fingers, interlacing. But maybe that's okay. Maybe you don't have to choose one path. Maybe you forge your own. Is that what we're doing? Forging our own path? I don't know. But I'm willing to find out. He pulled her closer, his forehead resting against hers. No expectations. No supernatural bonds forcing us together. Just choice. Every day, choosing each other. That sounds terrifying. It sounds like freedom. She kissed him then, soft and slow and certain, and when she pulled back, she saw Cade watching from the path to the lodge. His expression was complex pain and acceptance and something that might have been understanding. He raised a hand in acknowledgement, then turned away, giving her space, giving her choice. It was the greatest gift he could offer. "Mama!" Eli bounded up the porch steps, human again, and covered in dirt. "Did you see?" I shifted in the air. "Darius, did you see?" "I saw a little wolf. Very impressive." Darius ruffled his hair. "Though maybe next time warn. Your mother before giving her a heart attack? She's tough. She can handle it." Eli threw his arms around Sarah's waist. "Right, Mama?" "Right, baby." She hugged him tight, breathing in his scent, still human warmth mixed with earth and wild things. Her son. Her miracle. "I can handle anything." And looking around at the life she'd built, messy and unconventional and utterly hers, she believed it. The pack council meeting was everything Sarah expected, formal, political, filled with supernatural bureaucracy that made her head spin. But when they asked her opinion on integrating human families into pack structure, she spoke, clearly, confidently, from experience. And they listened. Afterward, Cade walked her back to the cabin under stars so bright they seemed close enough to touch. "You were magnificent in there," he said. "I was terrified. Doesn't make it less magnificent." He paused at the fork in the path, one way leading to her cabin, the other to the main lodge where he kept his quarters. He never presumed anymore. Never pushed. "Sarah, I know I don't have the right to ask this, but do you think someday we might?" "I don't know," she said honestly. "The bond is there. I feel it. But 4 years of hurt doesn't disappear just because you're trying now. I understand. But..." She took a breath. "Ask me again in a year. After you've proven this isn't just about claiming your heir. After I've seen who you really are when the crisis is over and real life sets in." Hope flickered in his eyes. "A year? Maybe. No promises." "I'll take maybe." He squeezed her hand gently, then released it. "Good night, Sarah. Good night, Cade." She watched him walk away, alpha and father. And the man who'd broken her heart but was slowly, carefully, trying to earn it back. Then she turned toward home, where Darius was teaching Eli how to read the stars, their laughter drifting through the night. Caught between two futures, yes, but for the first time in 4 years. That felt less like being torn apart and more like being held together by two different kinds of love. The moon rose full and silver overhead, and somewhere in the forest, wolves howled their ancient songs. Sarah howled back, human voice joining the chorus, because she belonged here now, not as mate or mother or human intruder, but as herself, wild and wounded and whole. And that was enough.